Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the old Beamer boy. More specifically, this disaster of a trunk. A couple weeks ago I bought some new amplifiers for back here, and I never got around to doing any kind of cable management or any kind of like mounting of the amps. So today we're going to build a carbon fiber amp rack. It's going to go right in this area. Yeah, so I'm not really sure like what I want this to look like, right? Do we want it like completely flat? Is that pretty boring? Do we want some contours? I'm not really sure. So the only thing I really know is that I want this amp here, like kind of lower, maybe angled a little bit, and I want this one kind of above it, right? So I don't know if that's gonna mean like maybe like a step in it, like a little stair step, or like maybe some contours to do something crazy. So these are some of the supplies that I have to kind of create something over there. We have some spray foam here. This will be good for creating like contours or any kind of like curves we want to make. This will be good for backfilling behind the foam and creating anything flat. We are also going to cover this in some kind of Bondo or maybe like a fiberglass layer and make it all kind of smooth. Yeah, I pretty much have no idea what I'm doing. Should you make a carbon fiber amp rack? I don't know. Carbon fiber is conductive. That might be bad, but we're gonna do it anyway because it'll probably look cool. So yeah, let's get to it. Alright, so I just built these little boxes here out of some cardboard and some tape. Kind of give me like an idea of the footprint really, so it's like easier to kind of see what's going on. And then I'll be able to backfill this, like these edges with foam, if that's what I decide to do. If not, we can build off of this with a flat piece of cardboard, whatever. The idea is that these sides will kind of be open more or less to allow for the connections, right? If that makes sense. So yeah, I think it'll work. I mean, if not, whatever. So I also have some leftover scrap wood from this project over here, these cabinets. If you have not seen that yet, I will leave a card in the corner for you to take a look if you are interested in some amateur cabinetry. Anyway, moving along. So yeah, if we do that though, this mounting hole kind of goes away, and then it makes this really hard serviceability wise. So it's like, I don't know if that's the best option. There's also not like a whole ton of room to like stack these real well. You know, like, I don't know, it looks kind of weird, I guess. It looks okay, maybe like this. Something in the realm of that. This is kind of what we're dealing with. You can see I got plastic everywhere. Maybe a little bit too much plastic, but I mean, is there such a thing as too much plastic? We're being super extra safe here, so yeah. So I actually kind of changed what's going on here. We got this in front, the small one in front of the big one instead of behind it now. I kind of think it looks a bit better. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be right. Doesn't matter. I like it. All right, so we tried the foam. It didn't really work. It's in that trash can behind me now. So I've resorted to this. I'm gonna run tape out from here, pretty much to the edge of where it needs to be, and then we're gonna fiberglass over the whole thing. We're gonna try this, see what it looks like. Or I'll change my mind again and and I'll let you know. So yeah, I'm gonna start putting some tape on this thing. Okay, so this is kind of what we got going on. I don't have it fully taped because I don't really think I need to. So we just got a couple of tabs to kind of guide the fiberglass where we want it to go. A rough outline is that black line there. Yeah, so we're gonna start cutting some fiberglass. Alright, so this is what we've ended up with. We have 2 layers on here, one 6 1/4 ounce and one 13 1/2 ounce. Yeah, it's just got 1 layer of each, so I think we're ready to pull this out of here. I don't really have a plan for that. I'm just gonna kind of pull it out. Hopefully it didn't saturate the tape and stick to the trunk too bad, so. Yep, here it is outside the car. I guess now we can give it a little bit of a trim, more or less of a rough outline of where we want this to be, because like we don't need all this undercutting. We're gonna add some Bondo to this and make it a lot smoother, so yeah, that's what's next. All right, well, here it is after a bunch of sanding and a bunch of Bondo. We ended up using about a half gallon of body filler on this. And I think we're kind of where we need to be. So the first step we're going to do is mix up some of our resin. And I'm going to use, I thought this was just black powder, but it looks like a kind of mica powder. It looks like it's going to be metallic. And the reason we're using this is because this is white, and then any pinholes you see through the carbon, you're going to see this, right? So we want to cover it, make all this black. This is like a mica powder, like I said, some metallic-y type thing. So it's not ideal, but it should only be in like a couple of spots where if you see through it, that's even if you do. So yeah, I'm gonna mix this with some resin, and we'll put a coat down, sort of like paint, wait for that to get a little tacky, and we'll start putting our carbon down. All right, well, here's the part with all of our pieces of carbon on it. So next up is a layer of resin. The bag that's on here is for like storing clothing. You put a vacuum on it and you can kind of suck it down. I was gonna throw it away and then I was like, oh, I could use it for some kind of carbon project. So I tried it on here. Unfortunately, the back kind of ripped and I tried to save it. It didn't really work, but the attempt was there. Let's debag this thing. We got all the peel ply off, and I went through and sanded some of these weird edges so it's relatively smooth all the way around. We also had to sand up here because my amp didn't fit anymore, so that'll be a little issue that we fill in maybe. So we're gonna see what we can make this thing look like. We're just gonna go over it with another coat of resin, and yeah, that's pretty much the process. Here we are after coat number 1 of the resin, and she's looking kind of shiny. So you can kind of see all these little ripples going on up here. We're going to take care of that, starting with some 120 grit sandpaper. So we're going to sand this down, and then we're going to put a couple more layers of epoxy on top of this. So there'll be thin layers. This is just to get like a good base and make things kind of flat. All right, well here it is. We put 3 more layers, or 3 more coats of epoxy on here. And now we're ready to sand. So we're gonna start with some relatively aggressive sandpaper, because there's a bunch of little nibs in here, which you may be able to see, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think we need to start with a little bit higher sandpaper because we've got some nibs. So I've decided not to go with the clear coat on this because I think the epoxy is gonna be strong enough to do what we need it to do. There's not gonna be a lot of stuff on it, maybe dust at the most. The occasional thing in the trunk hitting it from time to time. So we're gonna work our way up through some grits, and then we're gonna hit a compound, a polish, and an ultra-fine polish. So I also have with these pads here, because I don't have a DA to work with my air compressor yet, I just have a little interface pad on my orbital sander here. So it works, sort of. I think a DA would be better, more efficient maybe, but this works, so yeah, let's get to it. We got 4,000 grit sandpaper, and we've wet sanded it down, so yeah, she's looking pretty good. So yeah, now we're ready for polish. So yeah, we're gonna start with this. We got stage 1, 2, and 3. I got corresponding pads. This is the same process you saw me do with the door handles I made for the truck, the Bronco or the F350. So yeah, same process. I got a little bit bigger pad I'm gonna use because it's a bigger surface, and then I could bust out that little pad for little areas. But yeah, let's start polishing. And we have finished polishing. So let's see what this looks like now. Well, there you have it. She's all shined up, ready to go. So yeah, now it's time to get this in the car, get rid of my temporary wiring, put some real wiring in there, and see what this thing looks like.